The best attorney general, and quite possibly the best state, at least out of the ones that I've visited so far, is Ken Paxton of Texas, without a doubt. Now, when Greg Abbott passed the mandate, the executive order, his executive order to rescind any and all mask mandates across the entire state, Austin being the shit city that it is, let's just get that out there. It's basically just a suburb of Los Angeles at this point, and we're going to point out its, well, quite vast shortcomings. And this one right here, I don't know why they'd want to do this, but it baffles me a little bit. But this was a statement that Ken Paxton put out here a couple days ago saying he was going to sue and, have it overturned that Austin was still going to enforce their mask mandate. Now, like I've said before, take all the security precautions that you would want to involve you and your family with. Whatever you feel is fine. I don't care. But why do you need the government to enforce this? Okay? The science is out there. All the studies have been done. The little fucking paper mask that you put over your face, your little cloth masks aren't doing a fucking thing. Are you washing them every day? Do you put them on once and then you don't touch them to ensure that they are sterile? No, I highly doubt it. You take it off like everybody else, stuff it in your pocket, and you just throw it back on. Unless you're one of these psychopaths who starts their day, puts on their shirt, puts on their pants, and then puts on their fucking mask and leaves it on there until they go to bed at night, as long as they don't fall asleep with it. But are you so insecure? Are you such a control freak that you need the government to tell everybody, wear your mask, socially distance? Are you one of those psychopaths? Well, good thing for you, you can move to a city like Austin, because unfortunately, a couple of judges shot this down because reasons. We'll get into it. A district court judge in Texas on Friday refused to grant the state's attorney general a restraining order that would force Austin and Travis County to discontinue enforcing their mask mandates, according to officials and reports. Travis County District Court Judge Laura Livingston, obviously. It never fails, okay? The Parlor lawsuit. Woman judge. This judge. Bad decision after bad decision. And there's also a cuck on here, Andy Brown, also confirmed it. But here's Judge Livingston's great decision on the matter. People have been wearing masks for a year. I don't know that 2 more weeks is going to matter one way or another. This is just like John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, his stupid fucking opinion on that free speech case that was down in Gwinnett College in Georgia. He was the only dissenting opinion on the decision. It was an 8-1 decision on the Supreme Court, and he decided that, this case is moot. It's not like a free speech issue would ever come up again at a university. So why should we rule on it? This is exactly what this bitch is arguing as well. We've been restricting freedoms and liberties for a year, so what's another 14 days, right? Terrible, terrible decision. I bet money she's just a domineering bitch at home. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued Austin Travis County on Thursday over its refusal to heed an order by Governor Greg Abbott that rescinded the statewide mask wearing mandate. Again, he's not telling you that you can't wear masks if you're that fucking paranoid. He's just saying nobody has the right to tell you you have to. But if you love to have the boot on your neck, feel free to travel down to Austin, especially if you're homeless. Because instead of actually cleaning up the city council has rescinded bans on local camping or public camping instead of doing something. Like, what should you do? Well, you should allow people's businesses to reopen. You should stop making them wear fucking masks that hamper in-person business, because there's a lot of small shops. Austin is the 4th or 5th largest city in Texas. It is far and away the most liberal at this point. It's always been a little bit weird. It's always been a little bit not quite like the rest of Texas. But now it's just taken such a horrific turn that it doesn't resemble anything there. Like I said before, it's just a suburb of Los Angeles or San Francisco. We're going to read a little bit of this article. Governor Greg Abbott vows to ban homeless camping in public. Austin officials and unsheltered residents push for better housing access. No, just allow people to work, go back to work. This is from about, 5 weeks ago? So it's still relevant. A year and a half after Austin lifted a local ban on camping in public. Okay, so this wasn't even a COVID provision, but they made sure that they were planning ahead, I suppose. Some city officials are pushing to turn hotels into housing for experiencing homelessness. Just like what? Where are they taking their cues from? Los Angeles, New York City. Yeah, great beacons of freedom. Stupid, stupid fucking decisions. No, you guys can't stay in these 4-star hotels, but instead we'll just hand them over to homeless people. Meanwhile, a state-sanctioned encampment in the city is full and can't accept new residents. Ronnie Vara stood the corner of Austin's Mikana Road and W. Ben White Boulevard on a recent chilly evening, asking motorists for money with a colorful cardboard sign. Yeah, it just creates far more incentive to go back even when everything does open back up. You just have fucking bums littering the street. Not exactly conducive to economic growth, now is it? Please bless me with your generosity and part of my new miracle, it read. I'm sure. The 37-year-old sleeps nearby in a tent underneath the State Highway 71, where she lives, and the way she's trying to make a living would have been a crime just a year and a half ago. Now, you shouldn't be trying to make a living on the street. You should be trying to get off of the street. What the fuck? I don't get it, okay? There are certain specific instances that lead to people being homeless. Most of them are drug addicts and drunks that don't want to give it up. They like being on the street. That's not a majority of them, but most of them you can track back down to just terrible life decisions that they continue to drill down on, that they don't want to improve their life, that all they want to do is just lie around and be victims at the highest level. Oh, just pay me. Oh, I'll get a dog. And then you'll end up panhandling and you'll get an increased revenue because, oh, I have to look after my mangy dog. And you guys have all heard those stories that panhandlers end up making what, like $200 a day to bang on their out of tune guitar or to fucking beatbox and bang on an empty fucking 25-gallon drum. But no, continue to just regale us with your fucking sob story, Vara. She said she can't imagine what life would be like in a state or Austin voters reinstated bans on camping. What, you'd actually have to, try to strive to do something better instead of just panhandling? Why would you rescind the ban on camping, panhandling, and sitting in public areas that the Austin City Council lifted in 2019? That's just so fucking stupid. Why? Because most of the people that came into Austin, the influx there, thought that it was such a raging success in San Francisco. They thought that they ought to just import these fucking stupid ideas. How can you criminalize something like this? Very easily. What choices are there? Plenty. There's so many of us and the housing is so limited. Gives me something. No, work for it, you dumbass. Austin's housing market has become increasingly less affordable in the last decade. Yes, due to the influx of Californians escaping from the same policies that they try to enact wherever they go. As most major metropolitan areas in the country, according to the data from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, low-income renters finding an affordable home and especially difficult, 91.2% of Austin households that earn under $15,000 a year. Holy fuck. I just did a bog standard Google search, a DuckDuckGo search, and I came across what the average salary for somebody who lives in Austin, Texas is. Okay, if you cannot scrape together $15,000 a year when the average salary is $71,000, you are doing something incredibly wrong. Put down the crack pipe and get back to work. Stop with your fucking sob stories. Oh, just give me something. I'm impoverished. Oh, I came here and I thought that I'd have everything given to me. I wouldn't have to work for anything just because I'm a woman. We got it. Austin's officials' decisions to stop criminalizing the behaviors of some homeless people was quickly criticized by Republicans, yes, and people who understand the value of hard work, and some residents that are a part of a bipartisan group. Oh, there we go. Yes, poison the original sentence by saying, oh, some Republicans and some residents of a small bipartisan group who complained about a highly visible homeless encampments. Yeah, no. It's definitely the Republicans, though. Blame it all on them, not the fact that there's a group of people from both sides who realize that incentivizing homeless behavior would somehow increase its prevalency. Okay. Homeless advocates. Why is that a thing? And city officials agree that allowing homeless residents to sleep in public places has increased the visibility of people without homes, but also say criminalizing such behavior does little to get people into stable housing. Once again, another one of these appeals to emotion instead of appeals to facts. I just did a very cursory result, and it just goes to show if you just get a job in Austin, it looks like you're going to be making more than $15,000 a year. But what else makes Austin just, quite terrible, actually? Now, I did a little bit of research. This was just going to be Ken Paxton losing a lawsuit against the fucking moron in chief in Austin, Texas, but I figured why not expand this a little bit? And it turns out I'm glad I did, because Austin has a little bit of a secret behind it. And there's a little editorial here from Texas Monthly. Now it is a few years old at this point, but Cecilia Bali brings up a very good point, okay? We're just going to go ahead and read this. I moved to Austin in fall of 2008 to teach at the University of Texas. I was the envy of nearly everyone I knew. It wasn't the coolest city in the state, the country, and quite possibly on earth, yet still I was dragging my feet, which many Austinites? I like Austinians better. What? It's almost 3:16. Found offensive, even tried arguing with one about a superiority of any other place. I'd lived previously in Brownsville, San Antonio, El Paso, and Houston, but not Dallas. Dallas is beautiful. Come on. Go there. And I'd visited Austin countless times as a contributor to the magazine, but I'd always found it wanting in a way that was significant to me. It was the first place in my home state where I was frequently aware of the ethnic difference. Interesting. Those other Texas cities had their own racial and class problems, sure, but they had vibrant Latino communities. Yes, it's very obvious. And they were cities where I could experience myself as both a Tejana and a Texan, an American who was Latina. Why'd she change? By contrast, sometimes when I had lunch with my editor in downtown Austin, I noticed that there was only non-white patrons in the restaurant. Things were not much better at UT, where the faculty was just 5.9% Latino and just 3.7% African American. I had to ask myself, in a city where Hispanics made up over a third of residents, why were they so hard to find? It sounds like this lady's getting red-pilled in real time. Austin prides itself in its cultural liberalism and sophistication, i.e. being fucking weird. See how well it's worked out for Portland. But given the invisibility of Latinos, it irked me that the city was so obsessed with Latin American culture. Austin's fixation with tacos and migas and queso seemed to me a way for locals to fetishize a world most of them didn't regularly engage with. Yes, and being a person who constantly identifies her race, I guess that would be a little bit weird to experience. When I went salsa dancing downtown, a few times a white guy would sashay up to me with a sultry "Hola, ¿quieres bailar conmigo?" Would you like to dance? And I had to explain that I spoke English. I also felt persistently overdressed. Oh my god, just get to the good stuff, okay? When invitations called for Texas chic or Austin cool, I invariably wore the wrong clothes. Now just wear whatever you want, you fucking moron. See, again, this is another one of these women who just need guidelines and guardrails set up because they can't make up their own fucking mind. Let's get to the good stuff already. Enough. Austin's geographic divide has a specific legal past. As I came to learn, African Americans had been living throughout the city in the early 1900s until a 1928 city plan proposed concentrating all services for black residents, parks, libraries, schools on the east side to avoid duplicating them elsewhere. Racial zoning was unconstitutional, but the policy accomplished the same thing. By the 40s, most black Austinites were living between 7th and 12th Streets, and while the growing Mexican-American population were consolidating just south of that. For years, Austin had held the dubious distinction of being the only major city in the country clinging to an outdated model of elective representation that all but ensured its racial exclusivity would persist. Since 1953, members of the city council have been elected on an at-large basis, which means that residents vote for individuals who represent the city as a whole, not by their own neighborhoods. Because levels of voter participation, not to mention money, are unequal for neighborhoods to neighborhood. Why does that matter? This has perpetuated a serious imbalance in who holds and influences power. Oh, a racist that's only worried about power, but she points out something good. In the past 40 years, half of city council members and 15 of 17 mayors have been from 4 zip codes west of I-35, an area that has been home to just a tenth of the city's population. A few have been governing the many. The roots of this system are shameful. Until 1950, the system was straightforward. The top 5 voters would get a single ballot, would become council members, and select the mayor themselves. In 1951, a black candidate, Arthur DeWitty, then president of Austin's NAACP chapter, yuck. Okay, 51, I'll give it a little bit of a break. It's not like the modern one. Came in 6th, which alarmed the city's white business establishment. The system was rejiggered to create designated seats or places requiring more than 50% of the vote to win. A majority of non-ethnic candidates could achieve at the time. Not until 20 years later, in 1971, was an African American elected to city council, followed by the first Latino in 1975. So yeah, imagine that. In the city that most Californians want to go ahead and migrate to once they leave their failing state, guess what? They realize that, there's a lot of racial segregation, okay? There's a lot of shitty policies. And how do they want to fix it? Through a lot more government regulation. That was originally the problem of the problem that they're talking about. Oh my God, it's almost like more government never works. Why would you continue to turn to the people that only create the problems instead of those who would propose to solve them? It's almost like the population can figure out the answers to the questions that they're asking, and not those mandating from on high. So yeah, this article's from, I guess, not so much an article, but an opinion piece, is about 8 years old. The problems have been going on for a long time, and they only seem to be getting worse. And with their local government being so restrictive and their statewide government being not so much, I don't know why anybody would want to be going to Austin, Texas anytime soon. And if you're there, feel free to stay very clear of the state capital. The fucking cesspit. And with that said, guys, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.